Hello horror fans, and welcome to a deep dive into one of the most iconic movie monsters of all time. Boris Karloff's portrayal of the Frankenstein monster in the 1931 film Frankenstein is one of the most iconic performances in cinematic history. Karloff's monster became a cultural icon and set the standard for many portrayals that followed. However, many people know little beyond the basic image of the monster with his flat head and bolts in his neck. Here are 20 detailed and lesser known facts about Boris Karloff's portrayal of Frankenstein's monster, revealing the complexities and nuances of both the performance and the film itself. This is Horror Facts. Number 1. Boris Karloff wasn't the first choice. Boris Karloff was not the original choice for the role of Frankenstein's monster. Bela Lugosi, who had recently achieved fame as Dracula, was initially approached for the role. However, Lugosi turned it down because he felt the role was beneath him and didn't allow for any acting skills due to the lack of dialogue. It's also worth mentioning that the 1910 silent film Frankenstein, produced by Thomas Edison's studio, is notable for being the first screen adaptation of Mary Shelley's novel. Directed by J. Searle Darley, the film runs just over 12 minutes and was believed lost for decades until a surviving print was discovered in the 1970s. The monster in this short silent film was played by Charles Ogle, and one of the most unique features is the creation scene, where the monster is assembled in a vat of chemicals, rather than the iconic electricity method seen in later adaptations. Number 2. The makeup took hours to apply. The iconic makeup designed by Jack Pierce took about 4 hours to apply each day and another 2 hours to remove.
He was a master at it, and he did, this makeup, the Frankenstein's monster, everyone knows this, it's instantly recognizable.
Karloff had to sit patiently through this extensive process, which involved heavy layers of grease paint, wax, and spirit gum. The makeup was so intricate that Karloff lost parts of his eyebrows permanently due to the harsh removal process. Number 3. The bolts in the monster's neck are not actually bolts. While commonly referred to as bolts, these metallic protrusions on the monster's neck are actually electrodes. In the film, they serve as conduits for the electrical current used to bring the monster back to life.
Again, when you think of this makeup, you think of the flat head and you think of the electrodes, which most people think are bolts through his neck. But they were actually supposed to be how the electricity was entered into his body. There's like a positive and a negative, like on a battery.
In Mary Shelley's novel of Frankenstein, otherwise known as the modern Prometheus, Frankenstein's creation did not have electrodes coming from the monster's neck. This was a distinctive design choice, specifically for James Whale's 1931 movie. It helped emphasize the theme of science gone awry. Number 4. The heavy costume and platform boots. Karloff wore a heavy padded costume to give the monster its hulking figure. The costume added to the physical toll on Karloff as it was made of thick wool and added significant weight. To increase the monster's height, Karloff wore platform boots that weighed approximately 11 pounds each, making his movements slower and more deliberate, which contributed to the monster's iconic lumbering gait.
The wardrobe itself was heavy and black, and they shot in the middle of August. The boots were heavy and cumbersome.
Number 5. Karloff removed his dental bridge.
Another thing that really helped that corpse-like appearance was Karloff had a bridge on his right side, which he removed so he could suck in his cheek. And at one side, and Pierce shaded it to accentuate it.
This gave his face a more skeletal and emaciated appearance, which added to the character's unsettling look. Karloff was willing to endure this discomfort to achieve the desired visual effect. Number 6. The iconic flat head design. The flat head design of the monster was conceived by Jack Pierce and Boris Karloff together. They imagined that Dr. Frankenstein would have needed to cut the top of the skull to insert the brain, leading to the flat, squared-off head shape. This design became one of the most recognizable features of the monster and has influenced countless adaptations and portrayals since. Number 7. No spoken dialogue. In the original movie, the monster does not speak. This lack of dialogue required Karloff to rely heavily on body language and facial expressions to convey the character's emotions and intentions. This almost harkens back to the 1920s with the characters that Lon Chaney played, such as Quasimodo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Eric the Phantom in The Phantom of the Opera. By not speaking any dialogue, Karloff's portrayal of the monster added innocence and confusion, which then added another layer of sympathy to the character, which contrasted with the fearsome appearance. Number 8. The monster's iconic growl. Although the monster does not speak in the original film, he does produce a few vocalizations. Karloff created a series of growls and moans that conveyed the monster's pain, frustration, and confusion. These sounds, combined with the monster's physical presence, helped establish the character's emotional depth and complexity. Number 9. The infamous scene with Little Maria. One of the most poignant and controversial scenes in Frankenstein involves the monster meeting a little girl named Maria by a lakeside. In this scene, the monster innocently throws flowers into the water, watching them float. However, misunderstanding the nature of the game, he throws Maria into the lake, resulting in her accidental drowning. This scene was originally cut from the film due to its perceived violence, but was restored in later versions. Karloff reportedly expressed concerns about this scene, highlighting his understanding of the monster's tragic innocence. Number 10. The strain of filming took a physical toll. The demanding role of Frankenstein's monster took a significant physical toll on Boris Karloff. The heavy costume and platform boots, combined with the long hours of shooting under hot studio lights, left him exhausted.
It had to be, it was not a fun job, I'm sure, for Boris.
The most difficult part of the shoot was my father carrying Colin Clive up a hill time and time and time again until they got it right. Ultimately, he ended up having 3 back surgeries. He really suffered for the rest of his life physically because of just the physical difficulties in shooting that film.
Number 11. Karloff's contribution to the monster's movements. Boris Karloff played a significant role in shaping how the monster moved. He developed the slow, deliberate movements and the monster's iconic gait, which suggested a creature struggling with its own strength and coordination. Karloff's performance conveyed both the physical power and vulnerability of the monster, contributing to the character's enduring appeal. Number 12. A pioneering use of special effects. The laboratory scene where Dr. Frankenstein brings the monster to life was groundbreaking for its use of special effects. The electrical apparatus designed by Kenneth Strickfaden used real electrical arcs and Tesla coils to create a convincing atmosphere of scientific experimentation. This scene set a new standard for science fiction films and became one of the most iconic moments in cinema history.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Number 13. Karloff wore a back brace. To achieve the monster's stiff posture, Karloff wore a back brace under his costume. This limited his movement and forced him to maintain a rigid posture, enhancing the character's unnatural, reanimated look. This attention to physical detail demonstrated Karloff's commitment to his role. Number 14. The makeup was painful to wear. The intricate makeup designed by Jack Pierce was not only time-consuming to apply, but also quite uncomfortable. The layers of grease paint and spirit gum would stiffen and crack, causing discomfort for Karloff.
These techniques were quite painful, to have this cotton and collodion built up every day, especially so close to your eyes with a strong solvent smell, and the painful process of removing it as well. Have amazing endurance to go through this.
Additionally, the heavy prosthetics applied to his forehead contributed to the overall taxing experience of embodying the monster. Number 15. Karloff's performance influenced future portrayals. Boris Karloff's nuanced portrayal of Frankenstein's monster set a precedent for future portrayals of similar characters. His ability to convey a sense of empathy and tragedy in a silent, misunderstood creature influenced actors and filmmakers in the horror genre. The balance of menace and vulnerability in Karloff's performance became a model for character development in monster films. Number 16. The monster's silence adds depth. The decision to keep the monster silent in the original film added a layer of complexity to the character. Without dialogue, Karloff had to express the monster's emotions and thoughts through subtle gestures and expressions. This choice allowed audiences to project their own interpretations onto the character, creating a more profound emotional connection. Number 17. Karloff's dedication to the role. Despite the physical discomfort and demands of the role, Boris Karloff remained dedicated to his portrayal of the monster. He was committed to bringing the character to life with authenticity and depth, going above and beyond to embody the monster's tragic existence. This dedication is evident in every scene where Karloff's performance shines through the heavy makeup and costume. Number 18. The monster is a symbol of isolation. Karloff's portrayal of Frankenstein's monster highlights the theme of isolation and alienation. The character's inability to communicate and his rejection by society mirror the struggles of individuals who feel disconnected from the world around them. Karloff's performance captured the monster's longing for connection and acceptance, making him a poignant symbol of loneliness. Number 19. Karloff wasn't credited in the original film. In the original release of Frankenstein, Boris Karloff was not credited as the monster. The opening credits featured a question mark next to the monster's name, adding to the mystery of the character. It wasn't until later releases that Karloff's name appeared in the credits, acknowledging his crucial contribution to the film's success. And finally, number 20, Karloff's involvement in the sequels. Boris Karloff reprised his role as Frankenstein's monster in two sequels, Bride of Frankenstein, released in the year 1935, and Son of Frankenstein, released in the year 1939. In Bride of Frankenstein, the monster gains the ability to speak, allowing Karloff to explore the character's emotions more deeply. His performances in these sequels continue to shape the legacy of Frankenstein's monster, solidifying Karloff's place as a horror icon. In conclusion, Boris Karloff's portrayal of Frankenstein's monster is a masterpiece of horror cinema. His dedication to the role, combined with the innovative makeup and special effects, created a character that remains an enduring symbol of the genre. These lesser-known facts highlight the complexity and depth of Karloff's performance, shedding light on the effort and artistry that went into bringing Frankenstein's monster to life on screen. So horror fans, that wraps up 20 facts about Frankenstein's monster. Thank you so much for joining me for another Horror Facts video, I really appreciate it. Drop this video a like if you enjoyed, and the question of the day is, who is your favourite portrayal of Frankenstein's monster? Is it Boris Karloff, Christopher Lee, or is it Robert De Niro? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what horror movie or character I should cover next, and as always, take care.